Welcome back, Geraghty and Hugh. You know what that music means. I'm joined by Geraghty, the indispensable. He is, of course, the author of The Morning Jolt for National Review, columnist for The Washington Post. And this week he was on not only Three Martini Lunch, but he was also on the Editors, and one of the most important podcasts I've heard in a long time, because, boy, did they take deep seek to the woodshed, and necessarily so. Hello, Jim. Thank you for an excellent podcast with your colleagues at the National Review. I've been banging on. It's just, hey, hello, spy. Come into my house, listen to everything I do, and track all my keystrokes. What morons downloaded it?
We learned nothing from TikTok, Hugh. Mankind will learn at the altar of experience and at no other. It's a famous statement, and now apparently not even at that one. I also want to point out, Hugh, this is a very special episode. It is the end of January, and I have finally transitioned from forgetting to be online at the right time for Monday morning appearances to now forgetting to be online for Friday afternoon appearances with you. So I really feel like I'm now on the new schedule. And the desperate text from Dwayne, "Are you there, Jim?" Now it's, now we're back to normal. Now I feel
all
like
right, Jim,
I've gotten into the rhythm of things.
I had a long list. I've talked to Dan Crenshaw, Matt Continetti, Ben Domenech, Jim Talent, about enemies of America, both foreign and domestic. And the enemy we have at home is incompetence, whether in the skies over the Potomac in that tragedy, fire hydrants that don't work, reservoirs that aren't filled, boats that run into bridges, schools that don't work. Those are not real enemies. They're just incompetent. Then we got China, Iran, the cartels, Russia, North Korea. What should we worry about first?
It's very hard to pick one or the other. I think your point about DeepSeek, and we should point out that this was a huge breaking over the weekend, the hot story on Monday. As the week went on, you saw more skepticism, and Andy McCarthy wrote about this at great length. Just earlier today, there were new reports saying that if you look at the cost, it was not $6 million. Their estimates, one portion of the testing was $6 million.
Oh, Jim, you mean the Chinese are lying to us?
Right, I know. Those of us, those of us who covered COVID would be shocked to find this. By the way, this is a separate AI program, but there was an AI program that Chinese researchers in a university put in charge of a satellite, and apparently on its own, it started looking for military sites of hostile states. So, Hugh, guess which city that those researchers were operating in?
Silicon Valley, San Francisco?
No. Guess which city the Chinese researchers were operating in?
Wuhan.
You got it.
I did not know.
When the single most advanced nuclear submarine, the newest one in the Chinese fleet, sank at the dock and was flooded, and they don't think they had a radiation leak, but they may have. Kind of hard to tell. The whole thing was covered up by the Chinese military. Hey, Hugh, guess which city that dock was in?
Gonna take a wild guess and say Wuhan.
You got it. All problems of the world trace back to Wuhan, China. It is the hellmouth. It is where, I exaggerate slightly, and I should point out that Wuhan is a fairly large city. So it is it's just that most of us hadn't heard of it before COVID-19.
What would be the equivalent in the United States? Is it like Houston? Houston's close to the water. They got chemicals. They got a lot of people.
If I say Cleveland, you're going to say it's the greatest city in China.
Well, that is.
It's large, but the interesting thing, it's not Beijing, it's not Shanghai, it's not Hong Kong, it's not close to the sea. It's actually kind of inland. So, so there's that factor. Yeah, sure, we'll go with that one. I also noticed that Catherine Levitt said from the podium that COVID-19 came from a lab leak.
Caroline Levitt, yes.
Central Intelligence Agency had made the statement. Yeah, Levitt. So FBI had made that assessment. The Livermore Labs at Department of Energy had made that assessment. It's nice to hear it coming straight from the podium. My question
you made that
now
assessment
is, okay,
in January of 2020. So did I, and Tom Cotton announced it as an official of the United States government on this program in January of 2020. It wasn't news.
April 4th of 2020 was the first really big, thing that I wrote. And remember, March 12th is March 13th is when the world shut down. But I point this out. Great. I am glad that maybe a pangolin kissed a bat, as to paraphrase Jon Stewart. I'm glad that the natural origin theory is largely getting dispelled or ignored.
You're not allowed to
getting much more
recycle your
skepticism.
National Review bits on the Hugh Hewitt show, because I've heard that one before on the editors.
All right, thank you. Yeah. Well, not everyone who listens to your podcast and your show listens to the editors. So
They should.
But anyway, also I'm environmentally conscious, Hugh. That's why I recycle my jokes. No, but a bit more seriously, what are we going to do about it? What do we want to do as a matter of policy that it is an appropriate consequence for COVID? Never mind, like the first thing, like stop downloading Chinese-made apps, including like the 2 users at the Pentagon. Like, guy, is there any, that is one where I look at that.
It boggles the mind. Boggles the mind. So here's my suggestion. Exit the WHO and don't look back, and exit everything else that China's a part of, because they corrupt everything they touch.
That may require something. The leaving of the World Health Organization. I've heard the objection. Oh, well, if we leave it, that means the Chinese have even more influence. Look, the World Health Organization, a couple weeks into COVID, looked at it, wanted to declare a pandemic, and the Chinese said, no, don't do that. And the World Health Organization decided, okay. And another month went by. And then they said, okay, yes, it is a pandemic. If that's the way the organization operates, it no longer has any value. It is now an extension of the Chinese government. The whole point of having a World Health Organization is to come out and warn us about, hey, the largest global pandemic threat, something that ultimately killed 7 million people according to the official count. You throw in all the totally unrelated death increases in deaths in places like Russia and China and Iran and places like that. You get up to numbers closer to 25 million.
Okay, now, let me give you something to chew on until next week. Arm Taiwan with nukes, and don't tell China that we did so until after they're fully installed and they know what to do with them.
I think if you problem is you got to keep that real quiet until it's all done. If you, any point early in the process, you've got a whole world of trouble.
I'm just saying, if you really want to say thank you for killing 25 million people, Taiwan has nuclear or hypersonic missiles, and they can launch from tubes and you can't stop them. Deterrence is reestablished. Jim Geraghty.